Okay, let's get into what it will look like to make the top of this place kind of curved. What we have here is flat, and while it's nice and impressive in and of itself, that's not really what we are looking for. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is tell us, with the exception of I think the cutting wall goes, this slab turned more of here goes, then I think we can keep the others, and then we're going to use shells. So yeah, this goes out, this bye bye. We still got the guidelines to reproduce it with, and I think yeah, yes, they are completely selectable. So the first thing we want to do is we're going to create 3 shells. Alright, and these 3 shells are going to have one thing in common. What they're going to have in common is they're going to follow this geometry. Now for the 3 shells, one of them will be used to create this glass, the second one will be used to create this transoms or mullions, partitions, whatever name you would want to call them, and the third one will be used to create the boundaries. Alright, so let's dive into it without any further ado. Okay, I'm going to adjust this a little bit, yeah, maybe a bit more. Okay, so I'm going to bring in the shell tool, and I want to work specifically with the revolved shell, the simple revolved shell. I experimented a bit earlier, so I moved away this section. I'm going to restore it back here, and you can see it's longer because I'll be needing it for something quite big. Okay, so I'm going to place a column here. Not that that column is particularly useful to this, it's just going to help me identify on this section where that position is. So it's going to be like over here. Alright, so that will be useful in a moment. Let's get back to the creating of the shell. Alright, so I'm going to need a center point. From what we can tell, wherever the center of what we're trying to create is kind of like a ball, but we only need this portion of it, so it's like a ball that this portion of it has been torn out. Alright, so this is only part of it that we need, but looking at this, where is the center going to be? Is it going to be in front of this, behind? No, we can already tell it's going to be likely somewhere in front of here. So I'm going to have a center here, and I'm going to have a really large radius. This is going to be adjustable, so I don't mind, I could drop it here and close for now. If this doesn't make complete sense right now, just keep watching, you should get it in a bit. Alright, so we have this really big dome right here, and all I'm going to do is select it. Then I'm first of all going to adjust the height. I'm going to pick it right here, make sure I use the move node option, and then take the node down to maybe somewhere like here. And then I'm going to also edit this edge, so I end up with a curve. Then this portion that I pushed away so far, give away that radius, I'm going to restore it down so it ends up somewhere here. Alright, so we can tell that the dome will start going downwards at around here. We can tell where the column is to indicate the ending of this, and that sits fine by me. That kind of communicates what it is I wanted in this design. I think I did that wrongly. Drop down a little bit more. Okay, so there we have it, and we check on the 3D. We're just going to see this thing here that doesn't seem to make much sense. I said we're going to need 3 of this, so or be 3 of these rather. So I'm going to get back to this section. Okay, before the section view, I think I could just come over here. From what I can see right now, not all portions of the dome are within this, and that's bad news. So I'm going to have to enlarge it once again. I'm going to go back to this section, select it, and drag outwards, then maybe a bit more downwards, and probably upwards. I had the wrong node. This is the node I should be looking for. up a bit. I still want it to feel like a circle. I think that's part of the character of its geometry. Do I have the right points? Alright, so I need that smooth transition between here and here. Okay, having done this, we'll get back here and we can see, yes, all of it is reasonably containing what is supposed to host this. Alright, so next thing I want to do is, after I select the shell, I will right click and say define shell contours. Alright, so once I begin that, I'm just going to draw out what portions of the shell I want to utilize. So I'm going to use the inner one. I could make a bit of an adjustment for the outer one. I'm going to start over here. I'm going to reach here. Then I need to find the points. There is one here. The points I had created when I drew them earlier, there's one here, and I can close up. Alright, so the next thing I want is to curve these edges so that it kind of gives me an ellipse. Alright, at least an elliptical shape before it runs into the straight line we have over here, and then our shell is now located in here. So we check this out on the 3D and then we have something like this. Yes, this is the kind of thing we've been looking for in that position. By the way, this column can go right now. This is kind of what we wanted. So it's now to start some basic editing. I'm going to select the column shell, change the type to reinforced, to generic, and then change the material to whatever I see fit. I mentioned that we're going to be 3 shells. I'm still going to leave it at generic structural for the meantime. Then for the thickness of the shell, the outer shell is going to be like 600. Yeah, this kind of looks like it. I could always pick the shell from here. I think I have the polyline, not the shell. I can select the shell tool and press Ctrl A to just get it without much stress. Alright, so I'm going to offset all edges so I get this outer portion here, then offset only this edge to give me here. I'm going to repeat offset all edges, but this time I'm pressing Ctrl to create a copy. So there is one shell here, there is another one outside here. So if I press Ctrl A, there's 2 of them. Okay, that didn't happen. Apparently it doesn't seem to work with shells. Then I'm just going to manually create a copy. I'm going to drag this 1 meter outwards. I press Ctrl Shift D to create a copy, by the way, then go back inwards by exactly 1 meter again. Alright, so this particular one I am going to offset inwards completely to this point. Then I'm going to offset only this face to line up here. From what I can see, there is a bit of a boundary here, so I think rather than send this all the way back, I could just terminate it here. Alright, so we look at the 3D and it doesn't seem to make much difference here. The only thing we can identify as the stance is that there's 2 shells. We can tell that by this double line we have at the boundaries here. Alright, so for the external shell, I need to subtract the internal portion of it. How do I do that exactly? Press the Ctrl A again, let go of the inside, and then I'm going to right click again and create a hole in shell, and then I'll start defining the hole. I'm going to begin here. There is a point here, the other point right here. If you're wondering how I know where the points are, I don't. When I stay around the surface of this, it's able to tell me when I see this small tick right here and I take the cursor there. I don't need to click, just place the cursor there, and Archicad notify shows me along the path where a point is located or a node is located, depending on how you choose to call it. Alright, so I'm going to curve the edges of this one as well. Before curving it, I just curved one alone, so let's just see what that feels like. Looking at it from the 3D, you can see that this is still a full shell, then this is the one I'm working on its edges right now. So I'm going to come back here, click on this, curve the edges to this point, click on this, curve the edges to this point as well. Then for the bigger shell, that's this particular shell, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to change the thickness. I'm going to reduce it to 100. Okay, and then I end up with something much slimmer. I'm going to get back to the section view, and then this is what I can see. So I'm going to drag it downwards a bit, say maybe by 150 millimeters, and then I have something like this, and I'm going to drag a copy upwards by the same 150 and give down one. I'm going to drop this down again, 150. One might be wondering, why is it just making plenty copies? Well, I want them to be more like positioned at roughly the same location. So I'm going to change this one's thickness to 250, and then I end up with something like this. So I'm going to like raise it up again one last time, and this time I'm going to specify how far it's going as 75. Alright, so I want this guy in the center to be glass, so I'm going to just change the material here to glass. Now please, there's an error I've been avoiding since the beginning of this tutorial, and you might observe it when you're practicing as well. For my Archicad version 26, I have complained to Graphisoft already, but I guess they're not paying much attention to 26 anymore. Each time I'm editing a shell, if I open the shell tool dialog, that's like double click on this or bring it up on the other side, Archicad crashes. If you run into that problem, well, just restart the Archicad and pick up where you left off. What I'm doing is trying to do everything as much as I can to not open that dialog. Alright, that said, let's get back. So I'm going to select this guy, and I'm going to also change the material to steel. Alright, so I have steel and then I have glass. So there's 3 of them, and we are only going to see steel from over here. And one might be saying, Architect Frank, this is not what we spoke about. It looks like it a bit, but where's all the transoms? Where's the mullion? Where's the glass? Well, we will be getting those in a bit. So the next thing I want to do is I'm going to push this image away, just in case. Like, I need to create that grid. When I say grid, I mean this tessellation we have right here. Alright, so to do that, I'm going to use beams. I could use walls as well, but I prefer beams because essentially these are going to be done with steel beam sections. Alright, so we can see the pattern that we have here is the pattern has a hexagonal repetition or multiple equilateral triangles. So I'm going to go with the equilateral triangle stuff. So I'm going to draw one really long beam. Alright, so undo that. I want the beam to like start on the next floor. Alright, so one really long beam here. Then for the spacing between them, where I can see here in relation to the size of human being, I'll say about 2.5 meters. I'm going to use that. So I'm going to do 2.5, and then I'm going to multiply in this direction. Alright, and then I'm going to group them all. Then I'm going to rotate 60 degrees to both directions. So 60 this way, and then I think I could just use mirroring to get the rest. Alright, now there's one more thing to consider once the new copies come. And by the way, I didn't say this at the beginning of this recording. If you want to do this, please make sure you have a high-end PC. Have a PC with a really strong processor, because there's quite a lot that Archicad will be doing, and at some point it's going to lag. Alright, so that said, yeah, there we go. Now look over here, there are intersections. You can see that they are not intersecting properly. Alright, so to correct that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag everything a bit and find the intersection points. The PC is still lagging. Okay, I think we're back. So I'm going to click this and this to find out the existing points. Alright, so I want to bring this to here, and it will take some seconds to adjust again, but I think this adjustment should be the last, and I'm going to reduce the quantity of these as well. They were actually way too much for what I needed them for, if that makes sense. Alright, so here we go. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to find those polylines I had created earlier with this guy. I'm going to take a copy of it and lay it here so I can bring out the portions of this stuff that I need. Alright, so Archicad really has a hard time looking at all of these at once because it's calculating all their intersections all at once. And I can also see that I have these oriented the wrong way. I should have started with horizontal lines. So what I'm going to do is I'm still going to change the orientation, and afterwards I'll trim. This is still lagging strongly. Any particular cause? Alright, so let's just delete a few of them. Take this out. Archicad, come on. Okay. I think I removed one that I shouldn't have removed, the one that's supposed to be here. I could still take away some vertical ones from over here. I think I'll just take them all away and redo this. Seems to be giving Archicad a really hard time, and for whatever reason Archicad processes them much faster in 3D. Alright, so all of you be gone, bye, see ya. And yeah, so I'm just going to redraw those. One here, then I already know the spacing, and I said I was supposed to start with horizontal lines. Alright, so one here, that wasn't purely horizontal, yeah, this works. Stretch out, then I'm going to do this and group them. I don't need this one behind here. Then I'm going to start with another vertical one right here. Then I'm also going to vertical is not what I need. 60-degree angles, I keep forgetting that. Alright, so 60 degrees, and so I think we have one here. We would want something that could probably stretch across the entire length and see where that takes us. So 2.5 as well. I'm going in the wrong direction. I should have specified the angle. The angle I'm looking for now is 60 degrees. So yeah, at this point there's enough. What I need is just to sort out the angle. I think this is the last useful one. So the angle should be 60, and then we have these. I can group them, take away this one, it's not needed, then select this entire group and mirror. Alright, some parts of it are not completely inside, so I have to manually drag them in, And there's something we might observe already at this point, which is the fact that 60 degrees was the wrong angle. Just great. Okay, take this away. Undo, not take away. Undo again, undo again, undo again, undo again. The angle I was meant to use was 30. I used 60 before because I was working with horizontal lines. I'm sorry, with vertical lines. Then I'm working with the horizontal. I'm supposed to adjust it by 30. Yeah, so it's supposed to look like this. So let's get back to that. I'm just going to draw a line as a guide for the multiplication, and I could use one of these as a guide for the next one. Alright, so use this as our guide, and okay, so here we go. Push them all to reach this guy. Now you can see what happened. Then take out whatever portions of them are for this guy. Alright, this can go completely. We could do the same thing for this, by the way. You know, let them stop by this guy. We could do that in this direction as well. Alright, so as for these other ones, we could trim them. There's not so many of them. For anyone who's already screaming, bro, you forgot the last ones, I didn't actually. I just wanted this to look a bit neater while I work. Okay, so clean this up, take this and this away, take this out, and there we go. So what's left is I didn't group them. Okay, there should be a quick way to select them all. Yeah, I think I got them all. Group these, and then I'm going to mirror them, and I end up with something like this. But this is still troublesome. If you observe the pattern we have here, you can see that both the vertical, the horizontal, and like all of them meet at a point. Over here they do not meet at a point, so we have gives us these holes instead. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag them all. I'm going to take like this point and move it somewhere here. Okay, that wasn't the right call. I'm going to undo that. Okay, now that that's undone, I think it's to take this point and bring it here. Yes, there we go. But keep in mind that now we'll have some portions of it that's like outside, such as what we're seeing here. So we'll make a bit of an adjustment again. These are going to need to reach here, and this just dies off. This is cleaned up, clean up, out, bye bye. Okay, take this out, and there we go. Okay, I think you're also going. If I take you away, do we have any guy left hanging? Okay, so this now gives us a representation of what is going on here, and that brings us to the last question: how do we make them curve with the shell? Well, first of all, I'm going to like group them, select all beams and group them in one single group. I use the marquee tool so that when I selected all, if there was any other beam on the project like this one, they would be left out of that selection. Second thing is I'm going to select everything here, and I'm going to move them back to the exact same position as they had been picked. Okay, so now we have something like this, which is quite awesome. We'll get back to the 3D view. I think that's where we're going to proceed. I can already hear someone saying, bro, this is not really what we wanted to do, was it? I'm going to be like, well, it is kind of, we're almost there. So next I'm going to select this shell. This is our steel shell. Okay, before I forget that, before I do that, I'm supposed to adjust the sizes of all of these and their positions. I'm going to raise their height up, and I mean that both literally and figuratively, like raise the elevation so that they appear above this, and then their height as well. I'm going to make their height kind of like let's see what 2.5 looks like. Not even close. Let's see 7.5. Yeah, I think that works very well. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to bring up the solid element operations. If you don't have this on your screen here, click on design, and then when you click on this is going to pop up. Alright, so I have all of these, and I'm going to be using them as the targets. Then I'm going to use this steel shell as the operator, and I'm going to do an intersection. Alright, so targets are the beams, operators the shell and execute, and then we end up with this error here. I'm going to redo that. Alright, so use these as the operator. Rather, I usually mix them up, so please forgive me. Use this as target, intersection, execute once again. Did I click that correctly? Okay, yeah, I did. Next thing I want to do is I'm going to select all of these once again, and I'm going to move them to a hidden layer so that we just see what's left over. Oh, the hidden layer is visible. Hide the layer, and then we have this. This is still troublesome. This is not exactly what I had intended. I'm going to redo that. One of the things I had observed in the last step was grouping, or suspended grouping was off. I'm going to put this back on. Set all of these as the target once again. Find a steel shell. I think our shell is missing. Okay, there's 3 of them. So release this one, and one of these 2 is steel. This is the glass one, so the steel one is the one that is selected right now, and we can see that here. It's the 250mm thick shell. And Archicad is like, this dude is already undergoing something, so I'm going to be like, release it completely. So I'm going to make this the target, going to make that shell the operator, and then I'm going to execute intersection, and we end up with something like this. The next thing I want is, okay, this was like all the error initially. That was not an error, that was the correct anticipated answer. Click on this and then switch it to hidden, to that, and then we are left with these finally. And yeah, there you have it. There's still the glass between them. We could view on section here and see the way that they it doesn't really show well over there, but you see this going above and beneath, and then the glass in the center, and then you see that pattern repeated, and we end up with something like this. So I think the only thing that's left, which I will not be covering in this video because it's already much longer than I anticipated, so it's 9 minutes already. The only thing I will not be covering is how to create these columns. I'm just going to suggest very early on that you use multiple columns, not try to do it with only one. And for each of the columns, you can see that these guys have segments. You are going to use the segmented column option. So you come over here, you start with a round column, create multiple segments, add, and then modify them as you see fit as you carry on. You could also taper them for where there needs to be tapering and all that, and just play around with it. If you have issues with that at the end of the day, you could just mention it in the comments, and probably that can be treated as a different video. So Mr. Olivier, sorry I had taken so long before responding. I hope this video was helpful to you. I hope it helps you with the task between you and your clients. If you need further help doing this, feel free to reach out to me personally, and I wouldn't mind collaborating with you on this project, at least to make sure that you get it properly done. Documentation of this is still probably going to be an issue, but one step at a time. Bye for now.